Chapter 10. Love as the Basis of Human Rights. Knowing the concordance of actions and their effects always help beings in fact. Just that will help yourself. Nagarjuna, Precious Garland of Advice. It is human to have a valid feeling of I, and it follows naturally from that feeling that we want to pursue happiness and avoid suffering. This is our birthright, and it does not need further justification. All other sentient beings also wish to be free of suffering. So if you have the right to overcome suffering, then other sentient beings naturally have the same human right. Then what is the difference between self and other? There is a great difference in number, if not in kind. Others are more numerous than you. You are just one, and the number of other sentient beings is countless. Who is more important, you or others? I am just one Buddhist monk, but other people are infinite in number. The conclusion is clear. Even if minor suffering happens to all others, its range is infinite. Whereas when something happens to me, it is limited to just one person. When we look at others in this way, oneself is not so important. Out of 10 sick people, who among them does not want happiness? No one. They all want to be freed from their illness. In the practice of altruism, there is no possible reason for an exception, treating one person better while neglecting others. In this world alone, there are several billion who, like yourself, do not want suffering and do want happiness. From your own viewpoint, remember that all sentient beings have helped you over the course of past lifetimes and will help you again in future ones. Thus, there is no reason to treat some better and others worse. We all have a nature of suffering and impermanence. Once we recognize our community in deprivation, there is no sense in being belligerent with each other. Consider a group of prisoners who are about to be executed. During their stay together in prison, all of them will meet their end. There is no sense in quarreling out their remaining days. All of us are bound by the same nature of suffering and impermanence. Under such circumstances, there is absolutely no reason to fight with each other. Meditation. 1. Notice your natural experience of I, as in, I want this, I do not want that. 2. Recognize that it is natural to want happiness and not to want pain. This is correct and does not require further justification. It is validated simply by the fact that you innately want happiness and do not want suffering. 3. Based on this natural aspiration, you have the right to obtain happiness and to get rid of suffering. 4. Further, just as you have this feeling and this right, others equally have the same feeling and the same right. 5. Reflect on the fact that the difference between yourself and others is that you are just one single person, whereas others are limitless. 6. Pose this question: should everyone be used for my attainment of happiness, or should I help others gain happiness? 7. Imagine yourself calm and reasonable, looking to the right at another version of yourself, but this self is overly proud, never thinking of others' welfare, concerned only with its own self, willing to do most anything to satisfy it. 8. Visualize to your left a number of destitute people unrelated to you, needy, and in pain. 9. Now you in the middle are an unbiased, sensible person. Consider how both sides want happiness and want to get rid of pain. In this way, they are equal, the same, and both have the right to accomplish these goals. 10. But think. The selfishly motivated person on the right is just one person, whereas the others are far greater in number, even limitless. Who is more important? This single, self-centered, stupid person, or the group of poor, helpless people? Which side will you join? As the unbiased person in the middle, you will naturally favor the greater number of suffering people. There is no way to avoid the overwhelming needs of the multitude, especially in contrast to that one proud, stupid character. 11. Reflect. If I, as just one person, take advantage of the majority, it is truly contrary to my humanity. Indeed, to sacrifice $100 for the sake of $1 is very foolish. But to spend $1 for the sake of $100 is very wise. 12. Thinking this way, decide, I am going to direct my energies to the many rather than to this one selfish person. Every part of the body is equally considered to be body, and to be protected from pain. Just so, all sentient beings are to be equally protected from suffering. For me, this meditation is particularly effective. It is very clear that all of the troubles on this earth are ultimately due to egotism and self-cherishing. You can understand the principles of this meditation from your own experience right in this lifetime. That self-cherishing leads to ill deeds, even murder, and that other cherishing leads to virtues such as abandoning killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, divisive talk, harsh speech, and gossip. With this meditation, even if you are not aware of the kindness of others, you can learn to cherish others. Remember that you cherish yourself naturally, not out of any sense that you have been kind to yourself. From the very fact that you cherish your life, you want to get rid of suffering and gain happiness. In the same way, all sentient beings naturally cherish themselves, and from this they want to get rid of suffering and gain happiness. We are all the same. The difference is that others are many, whereas you are just one person. Even if you could use all other beings for your own aims, you would not be happy. But if you, just one being, serve others as fully as you can, this work will be a source of inner joy. It is easy to understand that you will lose out if you neglect everyone else due to overemphasizing yourself, and that you will gain greatly from valuing others as much as you cherish yourself. Since these facts are confirmed by our own experience, I find this meditation to have great impact. Take these reflections to heart, and you will gradually become less selfish and have more respect for others. With such an attitude, real love and compassion can grow. Encapsulation. Many types of valid consciousnesses derive from basic, natural, and obvious perception. All of us have an innate I. Although if we try to locate this I, we get into a lot of difficulties. This sense of I gives us a well-founded aspiration to happiness and a wish not to suffer. There are different levels of happiness and different kinds of suffering. Material things usually correspond to physical happiness, whereas spiritual development corresponds to mental happiness. Since our I has these two aspects, physical and mental, we need an inseparable combination of material progress and internal or spiritual progress. Balancing these is crucial to utilizing material progress and inner development for the good of human society. Big schemes for world development arise from this wish to gain happiness and relieve suffering. But there are higher levels of happiness in which one seeks something longer term, not just confined to this lifetime. Just as we need a long-range perspective that protects the environment, we need an internal, long-range perspective that extends to future lifetimes. I usually advise that even if you must be selfish, then be wisely selfish. Wise people serve others sincerely, putting the needs of others above their own. The ultimate result will be that you will get more happiness. The kind of selfishness that sets off fighting, killing, stealing, and using harsh words, forgetting others' welfare, always thinking of yourself, I, will result in your own loss. Others may speak nice words in front of you, but behind your back they will not speak so nicely. The practice of altruism is the authentic way of conducting human life and is not limited to the religious. The crux of our existence is that as human beings we live purposeful, meaningful lives. Our purpose is to develop a warm heart. We find meaning in being a friend to everyone. The sole source of peace in the family, the country, and the world is altruism, love and compassion. Chapter 11. Widening the Circle of Love. With love, you will attain 8 good qualities. Gods and humans will be friendly. Even non-humans will protect you. You will have many mental and physical pleasures. Poison and weapons will not harm you. Without striving, you will attain your aims and be reborn in a wonderful state. Nagarjuna, Precious Garland of Advice. Cultivating love advances the wish that sentient beings bereft of happiness meet with happiness and its causes. The aim now is to extend your sphere of love beyond its present scope. Such expansion will come naturally in your practice, after having developed a sense of affinity with others, since they, like you, want happiness and do not want suffering. The previous steps have prepared you to easily extend warm feelings to more and more sentient beings, bringing them into your affections, regardless of whether they are at present friends, neutral persons, or enemies. Still, at the initial stages of practice, you will have different levels of love. Stronger for those who are, for the time being, closer to you, and weaker for those who are, for the time being, not so close. As you practice and gradually progress, the force of your love will not discriminate between friend and enemy. Such all-pervasive equal love cannot come right away. It must be cultivated. As I was saying earlier, in the initial stages of practice, love, compassion, faith, and so forth are often mixed with a little of the afflictive emotions. Techniques of contemplative reflection are needed to broaden the range of your love, to envelop more and more beings. Cultivating love. It is easier to begin with friends, so let's start with friends to experience the change of heartfelt perspective as you consider them one by one. 1. Starting with your best friend, think, this person wants happiness, but is bereft. How nice it would be if he could be imbued with happiness and all of its causes. Meditate on this for a long period until you generate a sense of cherishing your best friend, the way a mother cherishes her sweet child. Though this will be easy to do with such a good friend, take your time and notice your feelings. They will be a model to extend to others. 2. Continue the same meditation with respect to more and more friends until this wish for happiness and for its causes is equally strong for all of them. One by one, this person wants happiness but is bereft. How nice it would be if she could be imbued with happiness and all of its causes. If your feelings here are not as strong as they were for your best friend, revivify the impact of the earlier steps. Reflect on the similarity of all your friends in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. Reflect that in the course of cyclic existence, they have all been your best friend, have been equally kind to you, and equally deserve reciprocation of that kindness. 3. Imagining a neutral being in front of you, deeply think, this person wants happiness but is bereft. How nice it would be if he could be imbued with happiness and all of its causes. Make sure not to let the meditation flatten into mere words. The point of the words is transformation of feeling. 4. Continue the same meditation with respect to more and more neutral persons until this wish for happiness and for all of its causes is equally strong for friends and neutral persons. 5. Imagining the least of your enemies in front of you, contemplate, this person wants happiness but is bereft. How nice it would be if she could be imbued with happiness and all of its causes. Keep with this practice until you actually feel the same heartfelt wish for happiness and its causes for this person who has harmed you or your friends, until that wish is as strong as it is for friends and neutral persons. 6. Continue the same practice with respect to another enemy, such as someone who has bothered you at work or in public. With each new success, take on more and more enemies, gradually widening the scope of your love. Such unbiased love is undeniably difficult, but if you practice this way with great determination, then day by day, week by week, month by month, your attitude will be transformed. Intensifying love. Enhance the experience of intimately seeking others' well-being by adding a stronger wish, one that calls for their betterment to take effect. Use the same pattern as above. 1. Starting with your best friend, think, this person wants happiness but is bereft. May she be imbued with happiness and all its causes. 2. Extend the same wish to more and more friends until the call for happiness and for its causes is equally strong for all of them. This person wants happiness but is bereft. May he be imbued with happiness and all its causes. 3. Imagining a neutral being in front of you, think from the depths. This person wants happiness, but is bereft. May she be imbued with happiness and all its causes. 4. Continue the same meditation with respect to more and more neutral persons until the call for happiness and for its causes is equally strong for friends and neutral persons. 5. Imagining the least of your enemies in front of you, contemplate, this person wants happiness, but is bereft. May he be imbued with happiness and all its causes. Apply various reflections based on the earlier steps until you experience the same heartfelt longing for happiness and all its causes for this person who has harmed you or your friends, until it is as strong as it is for friends and neutral persons. This takes time. 6. Continue the same practice with respect to another enemy, someone who has irritated and upset you. This person wants happiness but is bereft. May she be imbued with happiness and all its causes. When your feeling is strong and sincere, then consider another enemy, and then another, gradually widening the circle of your love. The effect is profound. Assuming the task. This generation of love for others changes you, but the beings who are the objects of these feelings are still suffering. Having generated 2 levels of love, your next step is to develop the stronger intention. I will do whatever I can to cause her to be imbued with happiness and all its causes. Here you inhabit the strong determination not just to change your own attitude in mind, but actually to help those beings become established in happiness through your own effort. This high intention will endow you with great courage to take on the great task of the welfare of all sentient beings. When you have strength of mind, the greater the hardships are, the greater will be your determination and courage. Hardship will serve to sharpen your determination. It is indeed true that where there is a will, there is a way. When we get entangled in a difficult situation, if our will or courage lessens, if we fall into laziness or feel inferior to the task, thinking that we could not possibly undo this difficulty, this diminishment of will cannot protect us from suffering and will likely make more. We must generate courage equal to the size of the difficulties we face. The following technique deepens your will and sense of involvement. 1. Starting with your best friend, think, I will do whatever I can to cause her to be imbued with happiness and all the causes of happiness. Notice the strength of your feeling of involvement, the feeling that this matters to you. 2. Extend the same intention to more and more friends until your involvement in their attainment of happiness and all its causes is equally strong for all of them. I will do whatever I can to cause him to be imbued with happiness and all the causes of happiness. 3. Imagining a neutral being in front of you, think from the depths, I will do whatever I can to cause her to be imbued with happiness and all the causes of happiness. 4. Continue the same meditation with respect to more and more neutral persons until your involvement in their attainment of happiness and all its causes is as strong as it is for friends and neutral persons. 5. Imagining the least of your enemies in front of you, contemplate, I will do whatever I can to cause him to be imbued with happiness and all the causes of happiness. Keep meditating until you experience, as strongly as you do for friends and neutral persons, the same deep involvement in his attainment of happiness and all its causes. This takes time. 6. Continue the practice with another enemy, someone who has irritated and upset you. I will do whatever I can to cause her to be imbued with happiness and all the causes of happiness. When your feeling is strong and sincere, then consider another enemy, then another, gradually widening the circle of your committed love. You will be amazed at the effects. Booster technique. In daily practice, reflect on the benefits of love, compassion, kindness, and so forth. Then reflect on the disadvantages of anger. Such continuous thoughtful contemplation, the growing appreciation of love, revivifying and increasing, all have the effect of lessening our affinity for hatred and gaining our respect for love. Through the force of this understanding, even anger will change its aspect and be diminished. This is the way to practice. With time, mental attitudes can change. All good qualities have to be sown and cultivated over months and years. You cannot expect to go to sleep tonight as an ordinary person and rise tomorrow with high realization. Chapter 12, the fifth step, the power of compassion. Compassion is the mind having the single taste of mercy for all sentient beings. From compassion, all aims are achieved. Nagarjuna, Precious Garland of Advice. Along with love, compassion is the face of altruism. It is a feeling from deep in the heart that you cannot bear others' suffering without acting to relieve it. As compassion grows stronger, so does the willingness to commit yourself to the welfare of all beings, even if you had to do it alone. This is unbiased service toward all beings, no matter what their dispositions are. In the clarity of this commitment, you see that by achieving enlightenment yourself, you will finally be able to fulfill the hopes of everyone in your expanded circle of love. This is what you decide. I will do whatever I can to attain enlightenment for their sake. Compassion is the stone foundation of the altruistic intention to attain highest enlightenment in order to help all beings. Great compassion is the root of altruistic action, the object of amazement to the world. There is no greater source of help and happiness. As long as you have compassion, you will be free of the deepest anxiety. The capacity to devote yourself to the welfare of others yields otherwise unattainable power and potential for good. Generate great compassion, and you become a friend to all sentient beings, a companion to all other altruistic beings, and a cherished child of the enlightened. Compassion is seed, water, and harvest. Compassion itself is seen to be the seed of a rich harvest, water for growth, and the ripened state of long enjoyment. Therefore, at the start, I praise compassion. Chandrakirti. Compassion is crucial in the beginning, middle, and consummation of spiritual practice. It is like the seed of enlightenment. You need water, earth, and nutrients to grow crops, whether rice, barley, corn, or wheat. A rice seed can serve only as a cause of a rice shoot and cannot grow barley, so it is the uncommon cause of rice. Similarly, a compassionate motivation is the uncommon cause of the highest enlightenment, and thus it becomes the foundation of spiritual practice like a seed. It is the beginning. In the middle stages, when putting altruistic intention into practice, you discover that it is not easy to help even one sentient being overcome the manifest form of even one type of problem, not to mention overcoming its latent predispositions in the mind. Such improvement requires continuous effort. You might become tired and discouraged, but if you continue to develop compassion, you will not lose the altruistic dedication that you generated earlier. If you keep your compassion strong when you encounter difficult circumstances, your commitment will increase naturally. This is the importance of compassion in the middle stages. It is like water nurturing spiritual qualities that will in turn nurture others toward enlightenment. Full enlightenment means that you are in the continual presence of great compassion. Therefore, you will not remain in solitary peace, but will always be fully engaged in the welfare of others. Like the ripened state of a harvest to be enjoyed by multitudes, this is the importance of great compassion in the end. Concern for others is a willingness to bear the burden of helping them achieve their own happiness. Such a courageous, unparalleled, altruistic assumption of this burden leads over time to aspiring to the levels of spiritual development in order to serve more effectively. In Lhasa, Tibet, when giving teachings on love and compassion in my youth, I would be moved from deep inside. After first arriving as a refugee in Dharamsala, India, I was conducting an initiation ceremony, and I wept when reciting the stanza by Chandrakirti, which I just read at the beginning of this section. Though I was deeply moved by contemplating the marvelous qualities of altruism, they felt like something distant, difficult for me to achieve. Around 1969, after gaining insight into how we exaggerate ourselves into being like a master and exaggerate things into objects under our control, I saw that liberation is indeed possible because the ignorance that makes such exaggerations is simply wrong, and there is a counterforce, valid knowledge, wisdom, that can eliminate it. Knowing that enlightenment was attainable, and after practicing Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life in my late 30s, I gained enough experience that my sense that true love and compassion were at a distance changed, and I developed confidence that I could actually develop such altruism. Since then, I have made some progress toward that goal. Let me tell you a funny story about those tears. A person who was attending the ceremony and had not understood in the least why I cried went the next day to see my junior tutor, Trijang Rinpoche. He reported that the Dalai Lama was extremely distressed during the ceremony, to the point where he cried. Trijang Rinpoche asked him, why was he crying? He said, he was depressed because he had had only one chance in Tibet to give this initiation. Trijang Rinpoche was amazed at the man's error. Not only are you wrong that His Holiness gave this initiation only once in Tibet, but he would never be distressed over such a thing. I laughed and laughed when I heard the story. How to widen the circle of concern. Toward whom are you cultivating compassion? The answer is every sentient being, because everyone is afflicted with some form of suffering. In earlier meditations, you developed an intimacy with other beings. First, you recognized that you and they equally want happiness and do not want suffering. Next, you learned that over the continuum of lifetimes, everyone has been your best friend, giving help to you joyfully. Finally, you saw that it is the very nature of society that others provide necessary services that help you, whether intentionally or not. If you did not have this emphatic perspective, then when you tried to understand the suffering of another through your own suffering, you might even take pleasure in an enemy's pain. Several centuries ago, a monk happily heard that another monk whom he did not like had married in violation of his monastic vows. The happy monk made some tea, invited his friends, and told them, I have something good to tell you. Folks are saying that that monk has a woman. When the gossiper's Lama learned what happened, he said, this gossiper has accumulated more bad karma by liking it that another monk lost his vows than that monk himself did. As Tsongkhapa says, in the world, when suffering is seen in an enemy, not only is it not unbearable, but you delight in it. When a person who has neither helped nor harmed yourself is seen to suffer, you will, in most cases, pay no attention to that person. These reactions are due to not having a sense of affinity with respect to these persons. However, when you see a friend suffer, it is unbearable, and the degree of unbearability is just as great as your affinity with that person. Therefore, it is an important essential to generate a sense of strong cherishing and affection for all sentient beings. No matter whether they are rich or poor, healthy or sick, young or old, it is crucial to have an abiding sense of others' dearness and their constant suffering. It is easier to generate compassion while visualizing a sentient being who is very destitute, but we need also to reflect on persons who do not seem to be suffering at all, but who are, in truth, acting in ways that will eventually bring about manifest suffering. Extend this visualization and compassion to persons who have done such deeds in the past, thereby accumulating negative karmic predispositions. Though the effects of their karma are not currently being experienced, these prosperous persons hold the causes of future pain as surely as if a cancerous tumor rested painlessly in their bodies. Then expand the meditation again by reflecting on sentient beings who mistake the inner nature of what is only superficially pleasurable and must undergo the suffering of change. Finally, reflect on how all sentient beings are under the sway of pervasive suffering, bound in a process of conditioning beyond their control. Steps of meditation. Since it is easier to generate compassion toward friends, begin with a close friend. 1. Bring to mind a friend who has obvious pain and think, like me, this person wants happiness and does not want suffering, yet is stricken with such pain. If this person could only be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Analyze the ways this person suffers until you have a strong feeling of how wonderful it would be if she could be free from pain of all sorts. And then stay with that feeling without analysis. When the feeling diminishes, think more on how the person suffers. And when this generates strong commiseration and a wish for her relief, stick to it without analysis. This is called alternating analytic meditation and stabilizing meditation. Perform the two back and forth, alternating so that the intensity of feeling remains strong. Eventually, the two types of meditation will assist and further each other without your having to switch between them. 2. Visualize in front of you a friend who, even though not stricken with immediate suffering, will suffer in the future due to heavy counterproductive actions of the kind that we have all committed over the course of beginningless time. Think, like me, this person wants happiness and does not want suffering, yet is stricken with such pain. If this person could only be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Alternate analytic and stabilizing meditation. 3. Slowly extend this meditation person by person, first with more friends, then with neutral persons, and finally with enemies, eventually including all sentient beings throughout space. Extend the range of the meditation so that you are not limited to wishing that only a few beings be rid of suffering, or that all beings be freed from certain types of suffering. Wishing for the welfare of others is not partial and is not biased. It is a heartfelt wish that each and every sentient being be liberated from all suffering and its causes. By cultivating compassion first for friends, then neutral persons, and finally enemies, you can eventually grasp what it is to feel strong compassion for sentient beings in general. However, if initially you meditate on sentient beings in general without earnestly attending to individuals, you might get the impression of having compassion for all beings. But when an unfavorable circumstance, such as being thwarted in something you want, arises, you will demonstrate quite the opposite. Booster meditation. It is also useful to imagine a helpless animal, a being of very limited ability with no protector, in a destitute state. Imagine such a creature in front of you, and consider what it would be like to change places. Think, if I were in the position of this poor animal, could I bear it or not? Try to feel what another being is feeling. This type of imaginative meditation is very helpful for enhancing compassion. Intensifying compassion. When you have made some progress, intensify the force of compassion by moving from, if this person could only be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, to, May this person be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. 1. Bring to mind a friend who is in obvious pain and think, like me, this person wants happiness and does not want suffering, yet is stricken with such pain. May this person be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Alternate analytic and stabilizing meditation. 2. Visualize in front of you a friend who, even though not stricken with obvious suffering, will suffer in the future due to heavy counterproductive actions of the kind that we've all committed over the course of beginningless time. Think, like me, this person wants happiness and does not want suffering, yet is stricken with such pain. May this person be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Alternate analytic and stabilizing meditation. 3. Slowly extend this meditation person by person, first to more friends, then to neutral persons, and finally to enemies, eventually including all sentient beings throughout space. When you feel the full impact of this heightened wish, move on to the strongest level of compassion, which is the determination, I will help this person be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. 1. Bring to mind a friend who is in obvious pain and think, like me, this person wants happiness and does not want suffering, yet is stricken with such pain. I will help this person be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Alternate analytic and stabilizing meditation. 2. Visualize in front of you a friend who, even though not stricken with obvious suffering, will suffer in the future due to heavy, counterproductive actions of the kind we have all committed over the course of beginningless time. Think, like me, this person wants happiness and does not want suffering, yet is stricken with such pain. I will help this person be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Alternate analytic and stabilizing meditation. 3. Slowly extend this meditation person by person, first to more friends, then to neutral persons, and finally to enemies, eventually including all sentient beings throughout space. Through this process, true compassion will evolve. This is not common compassion mixed with attachment, wherein when some little thing goes wrong, we immediately get angry. True compassion is an awareness that all sentient beings should be free from suffering. How to handle anger. When others are mean and nasty to you, it is difficult to stay compassionate. Anger needs to be controlled, but not hidden from yourself. Recognize your reactions, do not deny them. If you do, your compassion will be superficial. There are two classes of emotions. One class needs to be expressed, talked about. Take depression, for example. Perhaps someone close to you has died, and you are grieving privately. If instead of hiding your feelings, you express them openly to someone, the overwhelming power of that sadness will be weakened. The other class of emotions includes anger, strong attachment, and strong desire. There is no natural end to these. For instance, if anger is expressed, tomorrow there may be more. Whereas if you try to minimize your anger, it will weaken. We can see this in our own experience. Giving your anger the instrument of words and actions is like giving a child a pile of straw and a box of matches. Once lit, anger feeds off the air of exposure and can rage out of control. The only alternative is to control anger, and the way to do this is to think, what is the value of anger? What is the value of tolerance and compassion? Some persons do not consider afflictive emotions such as anger to be disadvantageous. And when they are distressed over an incident and get riled up, they feel they are perfectly right in showing their anger, even if they have a tiny bit of concern about how people might view them. Since they consider getting riled up to be normal, they make no effort to reduce anger. On the other hand, those who consider afflictive emotions to be negative and harmful do not voluntarily accept anger. Sometimes anger might win out and control them, but deep inside, they do not happily receive it. There is some reluctance. Even if they do not take sufficient countermeasures, their inner reluctance about getting angry makes a great difference in the long run. Thus, it is important to reflect on the drawbacks of anger. Use your good common sense. Is anger useful? If you get angry at someone, the result is good neither for you nor for the other person. Nothing helpful comes of it. In the end, anger does not harm others, it harms yourself. When you are angry, good food is not tasty. When you are angry, even the faces of your spouse, children, or friends are irritating. Not because their faces have changed, but because something is wrong with your attitude. When an unfortunate event happens, you can face and handle it more effectively without anger. Anger is almost useless. Perhaps a harsh word is needed sometimes to keep someone from a stupid deed, in the course of which anger may arise, but anger should not be the primary motive. Love and compassion should be. Actions stemming solely from anger are of no use at all. Realizing this can serve to strengthen your determination to resist them. It is not easy to have an intense bond of commiseration with each and every being, so do not be discouraged if a biased attitude interrupts your meditation. You will need the courage of unwavering effort throughout your life and for many lifetimes to come. Such a profound transformation cannot take place overnight, or in a week, or a month, or even a year. However, you will gradually notice changes in your reactions to individuals and to the world. When old reactions creep back in, do not think this indicates the failure of meditation. Rather, take such incidents as prods to meditate more. Booster imagination, taking and giving. When you see sentient beings troubled by suffering, it is helpful to know that their sufferings are due to their own actions, their own karma, and that you are therefore limited in how much you can help them directly. However, you can voluntarily and enthusiastically, from the depths of your heart, make the following wish and imagine with great force of will, this person is suffering very badly. and though wanting to gain happiness and alleviate suffering, does not know how to give up non-virtues and adopt virtues. May his suffering, as well as its causes, ripen within me. This is called the practice of taking others' suffering within using the instrument of compassion. Correspondingly, from the depths of your heart, you can wish and imagine that you give sufferers your happiness. I will give to these sentient beings, without the slightest hesitation or regret, whatever virtues I have accumulated in the form of good karma, which will be auspicious for them. This is called the practice of giving away your own happiness within using the instrument of love. Although such mental imagining does not actually bring about these results, it does increase determination and willpower while creating a peaceful atmosphere. These practices are performed in conjunction with the inhalation and exhalation of the breath, inhaling others' pain and exhaling your own happiness into their lives. Booster imagination using misfortune. Similarly, when you are ill or suffer an unfortunate event, imagine, may this illness or misfortune serve as a substitute for the suffering of all sentient beings this way. This will keep your suffering from getting worse through fretting about it, and it will enhance your courage. It is also helpful to think, may the suffering that I am undergoing now function as the ripening, manifestation, and conclusion of many bad karmas that I have accumulated. In my limited experience, these practices really are sources of inner strength and will keep a smile on your face. Worry will not help, will it? Recently, there was a rather strong earthquake in Dharamsala during my daily meditation on cultivating love and compassion. Though the earthquake was potentially life-threatening, I was not in the least afraid, which must have been due to being in the midst of reflecting on the needs of others. But I have to admit that just a couple of weeks ago, while flying for several hours through strong turbulence between Bombay and South Africa, I noticed that my palms were wet with sweat. So I reflected on the knowledge that if my karma meant that I had to die, then I simply had to die. And if not, the next morning I would be in South Africa. I felt better. The difference was in my outlook. If you can do something about a problem, do it. If it is impossible, worry is useless. According to Tibetan Buddhist texts on training in altruism, when you are happy, do not get too excited about it, but dedicate to the welfare of all sentient beings the good karma that yields happiness. And when you suffer, take on yourself all sentient beings' pain. We usually have ups and downs, but in this way you can maintain inner courage, not allowing misfortune to disturb your peace of mind, neither too happy nor too sad, but stable. When others try to take advantage of you. It may be that even if you remain a humble, honest, and contented person, some of your friends, neighbors, co-workers, or rivals will take advantage of you. To simply allow this is unreasonable. Under such circumstances, you must clearly understand that the other person is a human being and has a right to be happy. With respect and compassion toward that person, you can act according to the circumstances she has created. This means responding strongly if necessary, but never losing your compassionate perspective. In fact, compassion is the only way to handle such a problem, since anger and irritation will only hinder effective action and complicate things. At first, it is difficult to maintain compassion for someone who is being threatening or hurtful. But if you try again and again, you will find the way to react as strongly as the circumstances demand, but without losing a loving attitude. It is like the relation between a kind parent and children. Sometimes the child becomes stupid and naughty, and in order to stop that behavior, the father or mother acts in accordance with those circumstances with harsh words, perhaps even punishing the child, but without losing compassion. That is the way to handle the problem. Chapter 13. The sixth step. Total commitment. If one teaching is grasped and known, all of my teachings will be in the palm of your hand. What is this one teaching? It is altruism. Buddha. What is the distinctive feature of great compassion? As Kamalashila's Stages of Meditation says, when you spontaneously feel compassion, wishing to completely eliminate the sufferings of all living beings, just like a mother's wish to relieve her dear, sweet child's sickness, then your compassion is complete and is therefore called great compassion. Similarly, when from the depths of your heart you spontaneously feel love, wishing to join all living beings with true and lasting happiness, this is great love. For a mother whose dear child is suffering from sickness, no matter what she is doing, she, without any effort, has a keen sense of her child's problem, spontaneously wishing that the child be freed from that situation and be in a state of happiness. When you have such a profound, immediate sense of love and compassion for all beings, this is the measure of having generated great love and compassion. Having cultivated the three levels of intensity of love and compassion and felt the full impact of those wishes, you are ready to practice the sixth step, the unusual altruism that calls for complete commitment on your part. This is the heartfelt decision in which you promise, even if I have to do it alone, I will free all sentient beings from suffering and the causes of suffering, and join all sentient beings with happiness and its causes. The willingness to take on the task alone is a heightened, special sense of altruism. Indeed, no one has to do this alone, but you are willing to do so if need be. In a decisive manner, you are taking on full responsibility for others' well-being. The causes favorable for assuming this burden are your previous cultivation of love and compassion. The favorable condition is realization of the fact that everyone has the Buddha nature, that the afflictive emotions in the minds of each and every being do not abide in the very nature of the mind, but are removable. As I discussed earlier, problematic emotions can be separated from the mind, which means that enlightenment can be achieved. Knowledge of these basic facts makes realistic the assumption of responsibility to help others on a vast scale. Since you understand that all afflicting obstructions can be removed, it is realistic to decide to help all beings do this. With these realizations, you can make this altruistic decision from the depths of your heart and mind, which in turn opens the way for full spiritual development. If you felt that some beings could not achieve enlightenment, this altruistic decision to help would be difficult. This is how wisdom works to assist in the development of love and compassion. Seeing that suffering can be removed, you are moved from the depths about the plight of sentient beings, developing the determination to do something about it. If you could not do anything about it, such a decision would be impossible. For instance, I have made provision, both here in Dharamsala and in Ladakh, for a number of sheep not to be killed. But I cannot provide protected land for all sheep in these areas to wander freely. I can only be moved by mercy for the rest of them. When you realize that there are techniques by which sentient beings can be protected from suffering, this stimulates a greater degree of proactive love and compassion. In this way, wisdom assists in your own decision to work to leave the round of cyclic pain and to help others do the same. Meditation. Consider 1. Distressing emotions do not dwell in the nature of the mind. Therefore, they can be removed. 2. Since distressing emotions can be separated from the mind, it is realistic for me to work to achieve enlightenment and to help others do the same. 3. Resolve. Even if I have to do it alone, I will free all sentient beings from suffering and the causes of suffering, and join all sentient beings with happiness and its causes. Train in this until it becomes your natural motivation. This is true courage that can take you through all adversity.